We have 240 acres. We milk 60 cows. We raise all of our own young stock. Our sole source of income is milk. It's just my wife and I, with our kids also help us on the farm. We feed our cows with a mixer wagon, and I climbed in the mixer to put the new liner underneath the auger. And when I was trying to loosen it up, I slipped and I fell on one of those sharp knives right there, and that's how I cut my hand. 3 ligaments and 3 tendons, and the artery and some bone, so it was a gruesome sight. For the first 3 weeks, I was unable to work at all. It's been 7 weeks today it's happened, and I'm really not sure what the prognosis is going to be. My concern is that recovery isn't as fast as I thought it was going to be. They don't really know how long it's going to take before they stop physical therapy, but I don't have full mobility in it. I definitely can't do the things I used to do. When it comes to shoveling or lifting heavy things, I still can't do that. It's easy to look back now and criticize myself for getting in the wagon and trying to fix it, but it wasn't even a question for me of should I try to fix this at this point. I thought I was going to be able to save some time and some money. It was something that I really shouldn't have been trying to fix myself. I was kind of in a hurry to get it done, and I slipped and cut myself. Looking back and looking at what that one simple, quick mistake and how it's affected my whole life is something I'll have, unfortunately, think I'm going to live with the rest of my life.
Well, actually, I've been here my whole life. I was born here and raised here, and just, I guess I never wanted to leave, so I just stayed here. We milk like 150, and we got like 365 acres. In the afternoon, I went up to get the cows and down to the barn so we could milk them. Yeah, I was opening and closing one gate and getting ready to open the other one. Wasn't really paying attention to where the bull was, and he came up behind me and put it on me pretty good. Hit me in the back and on the side there and pushed me up into the gate. He only hit me like maybe 2 or 3 times, but he was grinding me into the gate pretty much, pushing me into it with his head. Yeah, he backed up a little bit, and I managed to crawl out from under the gate there and get out of there and go out in the barnyard. I'm sure he probably would have kept going until he killed me. I fractured all my ribs over here, all 12 of them, and fractured my collarbone and collapsed my left lung, and my right arm rotator cuff has been ruined pretty much. In Fletcher Island for about a week, and then I went to the rehab center. I was there for another week and a half. Walking again was a big thing. Dressing myself, learning how to use my arms and stuff again. Can't lift my arm up any higher than that, but that's no big deal. I can adjust to that all right. Well, I wasn't paying much attention to him, which I should have been. At the time, I just happened to be preoccupied with the gates there, so usually it takes something like that to open your eyes. Definitely be wary and pay attention to where they are at all times, because you never know what they're going to do.
I'm just lucky to be here today. I'm a 4th generation on this farm here, Warren, Vermont. We generally will milk 500 cows, own about 1,000 acres, and rent quite a bit of ground. Yeah, it says danger right there, and they mean it. I don't like the chains pounding on the fenders, and I heard them running that morning. They were pounding on the fenders, so I thought, well, I'm going to fix this. And I adjusted the chains, absent-minded, wasn't paying attention to PTO. I just got a little too close, and the tail end of the shirt caught right about here and started drawing in. Everything started ripping from the bottom. That's where I was caught. And all of a sudden, I was yanked right off my feet, and all my clothing was ripped off my upper body. I thought of my family, and I'm thinking, oh God, my 4 girls and just my wife. And then I don't think I blacked out, but next thing I know, Gordy Irish was coming up with the tractor and hit the PTO. And I just said, Gordy, I think I broke my arm. He just got a cell phone. I carry one now too. He made the call to the ambulance. The woman in the emergency room, she's come from the Midwest, and she said I was only the third person she was involved with out of like 24 PTO victims that was alive. The humerus was snapped right in half. 11th and 12th rib, this wrist. I had some lacerations on my head, so the blood was coming down and just burned the skin where it was pulling, my clothes were getting so tight, and then both shoulder blades were shattered. My father was always telling us, stay away from the PTOs. Yeah, when you see this, for one, stay away from it, and number two, it's time for a replacement, because this sleeve is supposed to be covering this shaft all the way. It's an accident waiting to happen if you help it out. Our help, a lot of them have never run farm equipment. They've never been around cows. So you have to explain everything and listen to yourself when you're talking so you remember these things. So the safety mechanisms are broken, fix them. Yeah, if you gotta do anything, shut the implement off. Because there's no reason to be in here while this PTO is turning. You gotta be in the ball game all the time. Yeah, my mind was not on the job.
There's a lot of dangers on the farm, a lot of them. I enjoy farming. I've been farming for 35 years on my own. My father was a farmer, my father's father was a farmer. It's in my blood. We have about 200 acres, and then we rent another 250. I'm milking 80 cows right now. Everybody thinks it won't happen to them. Well, it can, and it will. I got it caught in a round baler. It was 8 o'clock at night. I had one bale left to bale, and it was getting a little dark, and the belts were slipping. Every time that slipped, shut the machine off. But the last bale, I didn't turn it off. I was letting the jackknife take the hay off the belts, and I dropped the jackknife and I went to grab it. It wrapped the hand around the roll, and of course the belt was getting both sides, and it took all the flesh off. There was just some bones and cords left. It cost me 16 days in the hospital. My sons helped me, and the hired man kept the farm going. Fortunately, there was enough money to pay them, but if there wasn't, I would have lost the farm. It's just a stupid thing I did. I was in a rush. 5 minutes cost me a lifetime of incapabilities. But it could have been my life too. So I'm fortunate it wasn't my time to go. The machine had no mercy. If I'd shut the machine off, it wouldn't have happened. My hired man was working on the spreader, and he had the PTO going. I said, didn't you learn anything from this? That can catch you and wound you right up. I don't know what would be my message, just shut stuff off, you know? Don't put yourself in a predicament you're gonna pay for the rest of your life. I'm only half the man I was as far as doing stuff, just because of that.
The Scrutin family has showed at Rochester Fair for over 120 years and never missed a year. We were married in 1946. Then, of course, the children came along. We had 6. Arthur was number 3, and he was the one that was on the farm. He was the one that stayed on the farm, and we expected he'd be the one that would be there forever.
Art was always the one that got along well with machines. He was always concerned about other people getting hurt and would go out of his way to make sure that everybody knew how to run the equipment and do it right.
We had a Kraus harrow, It's one that folds down, and at the time it was folded up.
It was folded for a transport position, and apparently when they moved it, they pulled the pin out of a hydraulic cylinder to use as the hitch pin.
He decided that he would, before he come home to dinner, that he was going to put his new tractor on that big harrow and see how it would pull.
Been a couple of years since he had used the harrow, and everybody had forgotten that they had removed the pin.
And they went to open it up. He didn't realize that the hydraulic cylinder wasn't attached when he went to pull the second pin. He was standing on the downside of where the harrow would open to rather than in the middle. That one mistake is what cost him his life.
But it's just one of those freak incidents that you got to watch out for every day when you're working around cows or equipment. Because if you aren't paying attention or on your game, it could be you.
Yes, we have changed some things and learned from it. When the pin was removed from the hydraulic cylinder to be used as a hitch pin, really the equipment should have been flagged, and they do now have tag outs that they use at the farms.
He'd gotten out of the tractor and left his phone in the tractor. How often do we do that kind of thing? So if he'd been alone, he wouldn't have been able to call for help because he was injured to the extent he couldn't have climbed back into the tractor to get his phone. Fortunately, a family member was with him there and was able to call for help, but wasn't able to give good directions to the emergency rescue people as to where to find the field. Many years ago, there was a Guernsey farm there called Great Elm Farm. The elms are gone and the Guernseys are long gone, but the rescue people wouldn't know it by that name. So it would be important to be able to have the ability to give good directions to emergency personnel when they respond.
I do think a lot more about safety and fatigue and working with equipment that's not quite maintained enough, a lot more than I did before. When my boys were younger, I thought my farm being so much smaller, the equipment being smaller, it didn't seem as dangerous as the equipment down to Scrutin's dairy. And I don't think I was as good a mother as I could have been at educating them on farm safety.
A lot of things that we don't think we have time for, but we have time for a lot of things that are less important. So it's better to take an extra minute or two and make sure that everybody's going to be safe.